Here at WhyItTV, we have a pretty simple mission. We try to understand the systems that shape our world before we jump to an opinion. Context over hype, relevance over noise. And honestly, there are few systems out there that are more relevant or maybe more misunderstood than Coca-Cola. So let's just kick things off with a really basic question. What is Coca-Cola really? Is it just a sugary, bubbly drink in that famous red can, a brand that makes you feel nostalgic? Or is it something way, way bigger? That's what we're here to find out.
Because here's the big idea for this entire explainer. Coca-Cola isn't just a product. It's a massive global operating system. And it's one that's been so successful, so deeply woven into our lives that it's practically invisible. So our goal today, it's to make that system visible.
Okay, so here's how we're going to do that. We're going to start with how this whole thing got started, then look at the secret formula, not for the drink, but for its massive scale. We'll touch on how Coke became this cultural icon, the huge pressures that come with being that big, and how it's trying to pivot to survive. And at the end, I'll show you how this all fits into the bigger picture. All right, let's get into it. All right, first up, a system in plain sight. Look, if you really want to get your head around Coca-Cola's impact on everything from local jobs to global pollution, you've got to see its architecture first. We have to look right past that famous logo and understand the machine that's running the whole show. And that machine, it was built on one absolutely brilliant insight. And that brings us to our second section, the formula for scale. Now, the story starts back in the late 1800s, sure, but the real breakthrough moment wasn't inventing the drink itself. Nope. It was inventing a business model, a single decision that literally created the formula for taking over the planet. And here it is. It's called the concentrate and bottler model. And it's genius in its simplicity. See, the Coca-Cola Company in Atlanta, they don't actually make the final drink that you and I buy. Instead, they produce that secret proprietary syrup, the concentrate. Then they sell that syrup to this huge, sprawling network of independent bottling companies all across the globe. So let's walk through how that actually works. Step 1, the Coca-Cola Company whips up the secret syrup. Step 2, they ship that concentrate to a local bottler, let's say somewhere in Manila or Mexico City. Step 3, that local partner takes over. They add their own local water, sweeteners, and put it all into bottles. And then finally, step 4, that same local bottler uses their own trucks, their own warehouses, and their own relationships to get the finished Coke into every single store, restaurant, and vending machine in their area. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, because what this model does for the bottom line is incredible. It's what's called a capital light strategy. Think about it. Coca-Cola doesn't have to spend its own money building most of the expensive stuff. The factories, the trucks, the warehouses, their local partners handle all of that. So what does that leave for Coca-Cola to focus on? Just its two most valuable assets, the secret formula and the brand. And you can see this plain as day in the numbers. Just look at their rival, PepsiCo, which owns a lot more of its own factories. Coca-Cola consistently has a way higher net profit margin. We're talking over 25% back in 2021. It just goes to show how incredibly resilient and profitable this system really is. But look, a brilliant business model is only half the story. That gets you into the stores. To become a true global icon, Coca-Cola had to build something else. Not just a physical network, but an emotional one. They had to weave themselves into the fabric of our daily lives. And they did. Today, the Coke system is in over 200 countries. And if you look at their own official filings, they tell you exactly how they do it. It's a relentless focus on what they call competitive factors. And that means, it means everything. Aggressive advertising, sure, but also controlling the best shelf space in stores and locking down exclusive contracts with movie theaters, sports arenas, you name it. That's how you make a product literally inescapable. But operating at that kind of planetary scale, it's an incredible achievement, no doubt. But it also creates unbelievable pressure. And that's what we're getting into in Section 4, the pressure of scale. Because when your system touches billions of people every single day, its little flaws and frictions, they don't stay little, they become global problems. And that tension right there sets the stage for the challenges Coke is dealing with right now. Let's start with the obvious one, plastic. A report from the conservation group Oceana found that the Coca-Cola system sells a staggering 137 billion single-use plastic bottles every single year. Just try to picture that. If you stack them end to end, you could circle the Earth over 100 times. That is a massive environmental footprint. And for the company, it's a huge reputational risk.
Okay, then there's water. The system needs just vast amounts of it.
And in places where water is already scarce, that can create some really intense conflict. Take this one example from India. In a region where the groundwater was already officially labeled as overexploited, meaning they were using it up faster than it could be replaced, a local Coke bottling plant was using about 3% of the total. Now, 3% might not sound like a lot, but it sparked huge local controversy. And it perfectly highlights this tension between a global company's needs and a local community's shared precious resources.
That franchise model we talked about, it also creates a kind of distance, a distance between the main company in Atlanta and what's happening on the ground with local workers. And this has led to some really serious human rights controversies. This quote, for instance, it's taken directly from legal filings in a U.S. court case. The lawsuit alleged that bottling partners in Colombia were involved in, well, the systematic intimidation, kidnapping, detention, torture, and murder of trade unionists. Now, these are allegations, to be clear, but they really shine a light on the severe risks that can come with a decentralized global system like this.
And finally, you've got the pressure around health. As more and more people have become concerned about sugar and obesity, publicly released documents have shown a pretty clear strategy. This includes things like working to get access to major health organizations like the CDC, funding scientific research that tends to shift the blame from diet onto a lack of exercise, and even trying to lobby the World Health Organization to fight back against what one executive literally called a serious threat to our business. So you add it all up, the environmental pressure, the social issues, the health concerns, and it's all forcing the system to change. It has to. You've got this massive system that was built for the 20th century, and now it's scrambling to adapt to the realities of the 21st.
So what does that adaptation look like? Well, one of the biggest moves is a renewed focus on reuse. To deal with all the criticism over plastic waste, the company is putting more money into refillable bottle systems. I mean, think about it. A single glass bottle can be washed and reused up to 50 times. That dramatically cuts down on single-use plastic. It's funny, it's kind of like they're going back to an old-school model to solve a very modern problem.
And it's not just the packaging that's changing. It's the product at the very heart of the system. Let's be honest, the world's thirst for sugary sodas isn't what it used to be, and Coca-Cola knows it. So they're diversifying, and fast. They don't even call themselves a soda company anymore. The official term is a total beverage company. And they're using that incredible capital-light distribution system, that whole network of bottlers we talked about, to push out a ton of new stuff. Water, juice, coffee, tea, you name it. And this pivot is absolutely critical because it means the system itself can survive and thrive, even if the classic Coke that started it all eventually fade. Okay, so here's the bottom line. The Coca-Cola system is massive, it's complex, and it is constantly adapting. And this explainer, we designed it to be the foundation, right? The starting point for your understanding. But it is definitely not the final word. You're watching the explainer right now, which gives you the basic blueprint of how it all works. But from here, you can jump into our debate, where we lay out the competing views on Coke's impact, or check out the critique, where we really pressure test the official stories. The deep dive goes way deeper into the economics and history, and our infographic just maps it all out visually for you. Every single piece is designed to build on what you just learned. And hey, we do a full series just like this one on a brand new topic every single week. So if you want to keep exploring the hidden systems that shape our world, make sure you follow WhyItTV so you don't miss our drop every Friday. You know, we started this whole thing with this simple goal: understanding before opinion. We've taken apart the Coca-Cola system. We've looked at the business model, the massive scale, the pressures it faces, and how it's trying to adapt. So now that you can see that architecture that was hiding in plain sight, the question isn't just, what is Coca-Cola anymore? The real question is, what do you think about it?